do it slightly differently, where I come on and give people a chance to ask questions sometimes, and or discuss things, or just sometimes it's called dripping the vision, like just a chance to kind of almost if we met in the parking lot, or I saw you down in the park someplace and said, "Ah, hey, Father, what's going on?" Well, there's some things that are happening in the parish. So, as many of you know, it's been kind of a building, renovating, and redoing summer. So, what do I mean by that? Well, remember, all of this is being driven by a grant that we received last year for $100,000 from the government to do accessibility work within the parish. And we identified two major things: the doors, because again, for most people, the doors aren't such an issue. But if you're in a walker or a wheelchair, you can't get through those doors. They just weren't possible. So now we have the new doors. I think we've talked about those enough. If people have been here, have seen them, kind of like Star Trek. It's just great. They're kind of what I love about a renovation is they kind of look like it's the way it's always been, I think, and that's always a good sign of a good retro, is when it just looks right. So that's good. And then from there, we had to spend some more money. And this is the nice part about grants, is you really just have to spend them, is the accessibility to the sanctuary. I think those stairs are a bit of an issue, and the ramps we had were just not adequate at all. In fact, I think they were a little bit dangerous. So we had to kind of do something with that. So again, remember, we had only a year, 2 years, I think, to spend the money. So we had to do this, right? So we had to go and get this thing done. So we put the ramp in, and then to do that, of course, we had to cut away a big chunk of the carpet. And since the carpet was cut away, rather than trying to match it, we said, why don't we just eliminate it altogether and go with a different look in the carpet? And so, one thing leads to another, and now we have that in place. So that's it's all done. So we're just waiting for it's kind of like a safety railing that we've had to custom, like once we had the ramp done, then we had custom order a railing that'll go, it's black powdered steel with kind of glass panels in it, and it will extend out and then down along the ramp, so it's plenty to hold on to. So it's not quite official yet. I still have to put up a safety bar there just for temporarily until we get our permanent one. But that's good news. Okay, so that's all done. Now, we're going to continue to look. I have a graphic artist coming in September, and we're going to start looking at maybe some other things. But those decisions aren't been made yet. We'll just continue to talk about that as it unfolds, and I'm hoping to eventually have some material for you to look at and to kind of help to decide, what do we want to do with the art that's in the sanctuary. What do we want to do, around crosses and things. And I continue to meet with people and to have these discussions and just kind of talk about it. The other physical plant that got changed was, many of you might remember, the library that used to be just as you came in the back doors, or kind of the front doors, depending how you view the church. But as you came in from the parking lot, just on your left as you came in, there was a small room there, and that was the library. And it's actually a very good collection. This is the thing. They've done a lot of work over the years, and it's a lot of really good books. And I know people don't read the same way they used to, but that was there. So both Angela and Matthew, thank you for chiming in. It's nice to see the people there, and there's 5 or 6 of you online right now, so that's always encouraging to me. So thank you for joining. But going back to the library, so what we did with the library was we moved it to a different room, the room 25, which is near the hall. What that allowed was, because it all fits in there, and it's actually more space, and we can still use that room to the counters use it for their counting. We use it for meetings. We'll have a leadership meeting there tomorrow, actually, my senior leadership team. So that room didn't really lose anything. In fact, it looks it's a little bit warmer with the books on the walls, I find. So make a few changes, but that's all part of it. And then that room, what used to be the library, will become the new head office. When you think of it, when you come to the building now, when you know where everything is, you know where the office is. It's kind of that last one on the corner. But if you're new to the building, it's hard to find. Like, it doesn't really stick out. It's sort of in the beginning of a hallway. So what we want to do is move it to a more central location, which is right out there in the narthex, and then cut a window in the wall. We weren't sure if we could do this or not, but we found a way to engineer that. So we'll put a service bay, kind of like almost like you would go up to, kind of like a hotel's a bit strong, but you get the idea. Like, there'll be a window there that you could go there, and if somebody inside on the Sunday who might be just a volunteer, or during the week if we had like Emily would come up and probably serve you at the window. and that way, you know, we can kind of keep a little bit of control who's in, who's out, but at the same time we can kind of address, you know, what people want. So we have to cut a window there. Then we also noticed that there really is no window in the room itself. So if we're going to cut one window, we thought maybe we'll cut two windows. We'll put one outside, which will just create a kind of a nice, you know, a little more light and a little bit more air, which is kind of nice. And also then, you know, gives it a good service bay. Like it just makes sense. You walk into the building, there's the office. You know, if you walk out of Mass, they're the volunteers. Like it's very obvious. We won't need to have those kind of desks that we've been using, which were very practical and were helpful, but we'll have more space then, right? Because everything's sort of contained within the office. So that's the thinking. So, hi, Father Rob. Nice to see you, my friend. Well, nice to see you as well. And Matthew, we talk about accessibility. Is it going to be an elevator or a chairlift for people with mobility issues to get up to the second floor? Well, Matthew, really there's not a lot on the second floor. There's only, that's where the youth office kind of was. And we're even thinking about changing that a little bit. So really the whole building, we think about the hall, the church, and now the sanctuary are all kind of one level. So it wouldn't make much sense to put an elevator in for an area that they're very expensive and it take up a pretty big footprint. We'd have to lose probably where was Lori's office, and to what? Like how many people with accessibility issues need to get up those stairs? I'd almost like to use that as a storage facility or something else and keep everything on the ground floor. Would be considerably probably more practical. So no, I don't think we're putting elevators in because I went in churches where the hall was underneath the church, and that was an issue, but that's just not our problem. So I don't see that one happening, Matthew, but we'll see. We'll work out something. So again, so those are all the practical things. So, okay, we put new doors in. We've kind of put the ramp in. We've changed the carpet. We're looking at doing some more renovations there in the sanctuary, but that will occur in time. We've made the decision to move the office, and we're going to cut some windows when we can get that done. And that'll be done. And we did a painting job as well in the midst of all of this. The exterior vinyl was getting a little pretty faded, especially on the south side. And we painted all that brown again, and it looks really nice. And then they redid the doors, and we've actually had them back in again. I'm not sure if they're here yet or not. No, not quite yet. And they're going to do all the light towers, so they'll look nice as well. So it's all good news. That's all good. Okay, that's the physical plant, but that was actually secondary. My main concern was not just rebuilding the plant, but I had to rebuild my staff. Like, not everyone's aware of all of this, but Lori was retiring. She and her husband Richard were coming to, really Richard and his work was coming to an end, and so we knew that for a year. So we knew that train was going to eventually come to the station, and God bless Lori and the work that she did. But that was going to happen. So we got to replace Lori, and then our contract with NET had come to an end with the youth program. Kind of by mutual agreement. I think NET is downsized a little bit this year, and they're not doing as much a stationary ministry locally. They were trying to experiment with some things, but they're going to be back on the road again with teams. That's going to be their principal focus. Kind of that's what they do. And so what we do then, we have to find youth programming, and because we've coming out of COVID and just the reality of where I think our program is now, I think it's going to be a rebuilding year. So we had to find a new youth coordinator to go really part-time with a budget, and then we'll see if we can't grow that into something more substantial. And that's the hope, is kind of building it back up again, kind of based around small groups. But that's a discussion for another time. So that was the thing. And then Emily as well, who's been so good in the front office. Em has getting married in October. Bless her. It's going to be the royal wedding. That's right here, and I'm kind of looking forward to that. But then she's moving to Kingston, right? So we had to find someone for the front office. Now, I haven't gotten all the signatures yet on contracts, but what I can tell you is that all three of those positions have been filled. So I think we pretty much have people in line to both take over what Lori was doing, and it's only a different kind of thing, more than working with volunteers, but I think is almost a resident evangelist, I think. So I'm pretty excited about that. And we do have someone who part-time youth ministry, who has experience, doing that, and I think has a connection to us. So again, I want to wait until we have contracts signed, and then that they can maybe come online and introduce themselves. But people that we know, and I think we have someone as well to fill in at least part time in the front office, and to kind of move that forward a little bit too. So just being that presence. Although I think we need more on the weekends. I think we either need volunteers or a paid position for Sunday morning that I'm kind of still thinking about. When you think of it, like the majority of the people come into the building consistently for the 2 Sunday morning masses. So to have somebody in the office, whether volunteer or paid, for that 2 or 3 hours where most of the people in the building, it just makes a kind of a lot of sense, right? It's a weekend experience. So rather than having you come back to get a mass at another time, when also like I've always said that it's strange. We run the church like a business Monday to Friday, kind of. It's in the morning to evening, and then on the weekends we do ministry as if they're separate things, when really the majority of people come on the weekends, and then we should have services available on the weekend. It just makes perfect sense. So we're kind of trying to work on that. So let's read some of these questions now. So bless you, makes sense. Those are good ones. Thank you, Teresa. God bless you as well. I think Matthew, that was just a response to my idea that we probably won't put an elevator in because it just isn't that much demand to get up those stairs. Just thank you for all the work that you do for our church, Father Rob, Deacon Mark, Father John. Blessings to you all. Thank you. That's very kind as well. We also need a grand night. Yeah, that's a situation the Knights are going to have to sort through. There are 2 organizations in the church that are called charter organizations: the Catholic Women's League and the Knights of Columbus. So although they work with the parish, of course, and kind of in concert with the parish, they are kind of their separate entities. And so when it comes to things like this, it's something that we're going to have to. They're going to work that out. So we'll have to see what's going to happen with the Knights, and I think all organizations coming through COVID, it's been difficult because we notice with a number of volunteers are down as well. So this is all part of it. So we'll have to see with that. So just to finish off, so thank you guys for your comments, and it's nice to get the questions. I'm trying to do 2 things here. Like I have a bit of a script, and then I'm trying to respond in real term. The Father Rob, the maritime navigator, sailor, it's. There has been a little overlap, I think, in kind of charting new waters here, because we've never been here before. And I think I often thought that as we came out of COVID, there'd be this uptick. People would come back to church, and I knew there'd be some drop off, but I didn't think it would be quite as drastic as it's been. And I really think this is across the board. I don't think it's just our parish. In fact, I think we've come through reasonably well. But I think it's just volunteers in general, and the migration. It's like how people operate, how comfortable they are in crowds. There's just, I think, right across the board, volunteers have been an issue. And so we're just talking today with our communications team, and one of the things we're in, again, this is unveiling, and we'll talk more about this in the coming weeks and months. But this fall is going to be very interesting, because what had happened was when Easter this spring, was kind of the lifting, and Easter happened at the same time. But so did the 6th wave. And so it was a bit of a flat reopening. Like it wasn't like we could just boom, and now it's safe to come out, because it really wasn't. And we kept the 12 o'clock mass, and we got through Easter, and it was nice. And then by Pentecost, things had more or less opened, but we still didn't have that. And it's the summertime, and people also go to the cottage, and so it's always this sort of flattening out. But this fall is going to be an interesting kind of test for us, really, in a way. The encouragement that I would give to the parish right across the board is, I think all of us know people that aren't coming or are still a little bit afraid. I've said this to you a few times in the past, and you know who these people are, and you kind of know their situation. And I'm just kind of encouraging parishioners to reach out to others and say, look, why don't you try coming back to Mass? Come on maybe in the morning, or come to a weekday Mass, or just kind of break that ice and come back. I mean, this is fine, like doing virtual stuff, but it doesn't replace worshiping and the real deal, And I think this fall is going to be a real test for us, because if we can't, well, wherever we get to, sort of, what level we get to as far as people back in church and people back in activities, that's what we're going to have to work with. By September, October, by November, I think that's kind of, as we move towards Advent and this Christmas, this is it. I think we have to start drawing a line in the sand and say, not in a threatening way, but we can't kind of hope that maybe next year this wave is going to come back. I think there's a fairly large segment of people that may never come back, and we'll continue to stream and we'll try to serve as best we can. There may be people migrating to other churches, and that's part of life, and I think that's the good. If they're being fed and they're being taken care of, and maybe they live closer to some other buildings and we're coming here for other reasons, that's all understandable too. We're going to have to watch for that. But whoever we have by November of this year, I think is who we're going to have. And that's where we start building out again from. It's not so much swelling the church as bringing people back in that were here before. It's growing the church, finding new and creative ways to proclaim the gospel in such a way that people would respond. And people who aren't necessarily going to church or weren't before COVID. But through the proclamation of the gospel and through witness and accompaniment, are going to start to do that. Now, parishes that are able to do that and take that seriously are going to come out of this. There's going to be some momentum and some movement forward. I think if parishes sit back and sort of wait, hoping that next year maybe it'll be better, well, maybe by, springtime, maybe, 2 years from now, maybe if we pave the parking lot, well, okay, fine. And those are all interesting ideas. But I think it's going to be outreach and it's going to be growth. And that's it. I really think those are going to be key things. And there's no magic formula. It's not a program per se. It's not any one particular activity, Alpha or, faith study or even, we've been doing big guns here. One of our parishioners stepped forward and has been asking for men's clothing, and he's been giving it to a shelter kind of facility in Vanier. That's going amazingly well. Kudos, man. So those are all good things. But is it bringing more people to Christ? I mean, that's got to be our mantra. What does it mean to be in relationship with Jesus Christ, and how do we facilitate that? What do we reward? What do we tolerate? Like when we do things that don't seem to have anything to do with that, that's a problem. And when things go on and on and on and don't really seem to have much to do with that, that's a problem. So what do you reward? What do you tolerate? These are the things that we should be celebrating when someone who finds us, somebody who comes out of the blue and says, I saw you online, or I've been talking to one of your parishioners, and I'd like to try out this stuff, despite all the stuff and, what's been going on and some of the maybe not so great press we've been receiving. I still believe there's something to this, and I want to experience more of it. So this is the big thing. So it's coming in many forms. It's going to be over and over again. But are we willing to do this individually? Are we willing to do this as a parish? Are we willing to do it as each individual mass? Bring a friend to church, reach out, be the people of God we're called to be. So anyway, more about that as we get closer to it, but that's the thoughts for the night. So Jeff, again, joining us from BC. God bless you. There's a few of you out there now. So as I say, this is a pattern, right? We just assume everybody's out there, but people have changed. People have moved. Things have happened in the last 3 years, and we're going to have to change too. So my good friends, that's probably enough for tonight. Some renovations going on, good. Some new staffing, good, very exciting. Some new opportunities to be a church of engagement, a church of outreach. And I think that's good too. Because I really think in the end, again, COVID wasn't our problem. It just accelerated our problem. We had been waiting for people to come to us. And I think it's time that we send out some scouts. Say, okay, where are you at? How do we have the conversation? What's going on now? Love is a way of the heart, and the heart even to the ones that can't see. Trust in that and faith and all. Good night, Father Rob. Well, that's a nice way to end it. So yeah, I agree. To love tenderly, and to love in faith, and to love in God's grace. So may the good Lord continue to watch over, guide, and protect you. May the saints and angels intercede for you all. May our Blessed Mother wrap you in the mantle of her peace, and may God bless you and keep you. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless you, good people. See you in church.